Today we'll be checking out the new Benq W4100i home theater projector. And thank you to Benq for sending this out for me to review. Inside we get the power cord, the quick start guide and batteries, the factory calibration report, Android TV streaming stick, and the remote control. This is a compact projector measuring 16.5 inches wide by 5.3 inches in height by 12.2 inches deep, and it weighs a light 13.4 pounds. It's got an included lens cover, and the lens is offset to one side. It's got manual controls for focus and zoom, as well as manual controls for horizontal and vertical lens shift. As for connections, it's got a 12-volt trigger, an RS-232, mini USB and USB-A for media playback, 3.5mm in optical audio outs, 3 HDMI 2.1 ins with EARC support, and another USB in for charging. There's also another dedicated HDMI input behind the cover for the Android streaming stick. The projector's controls are also located on the side of the projector. The W4100i is a laser projector with a laser life up to 20,000 to 30,000 hours. It's rated for 3200 ANSI lumen output with a contrast ratio spec'd at 3 million to 1. It covers 100% P3 and 709 color. If you're a gamer, it's spec'd at 17.9 milliseconds input lag at 4K 60. Now if you press the projector menu button on the remote control, this will bring up your quick menu selections on the bottom here. So if you don't want to go into the full menu, you have some really quick ones here, which you can edit. So you have stuff like picture mode, sound mode, light source, and then you can edit what shows up on the quick selection here. I am projecting on a 150-inch Screen Innovations Maestro 2 acoustically transparent screen, which has a gain of 1.1. With that said, let's go ahead and check out some of the projector settings. The first section here is going to be the picture settings. Under picture mode, you can see that we have a few different options here. We've got Bright Cinema, AI Cinema, which is new for this year, Cinema, Filmmaker mode, and then User, which is your own customizable settings. Fast mode will enable fast mode for gaming and low latency. We've got sliders for brightness, contrast, color, tint, and sharpness. Under the advanced color sections, we've got gamma selection, which ranges from a 1.8 all the way up to Benq's own, and then back to 1.8. If you are a professional calibrator, which I am not, this does have color temperature tuning. So if you have the appropriate gear, you can do all of your calibration and measurements in this section here to get the perfect calibration for your projector. Same thing under the advanced color temperature tuning and then color management. Right now, this does have the wide color gamut grayed out. If we were to watch HDR material, you can turn that option on or off. Here you can see with the color filter in place, this will give you 100% P3. However, this will cut down on the overall picture brightness. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's pretty significant. I'd say around 20–30%, maybe. For my size screen at 150 inches, I find the image too dim using the filter, so most of my usage was without the filter in place. I think if your screen is around 110 inches and below, then you probably won't notice it all that much. The colors do look richer, but for my usage, I'll take the extra brightness. The next section is the Cinema Master. Here we've got the color enhancer, which will boost up the color saturation. We've got pixel enhancer 4K, which will enhance, basically sharpen the image. Motion enhancer 4K, which will give you slightly smoother motion. Global contrast enhancer, which will look at the overall image of the picture and adjust the contrast accordingly for the overall image. And then local contrast enhancer will separate into different zones the entire image and brighten or darken that specific zone in the image according to what is shown on screen. Now we're going to check out the global contrast enhancer. So as you can see, I've got it off and the image looks fairly well. Now if we slowly go up the contrast enhancer slider, we can see that the shadows in the snow in the foreground, also the mountains and trees in the background, start snapping into place. They get a little bit darker. We go up again, everything starts getting even more clear, more footprints are in the snow, and then we reach the high mark, and then we can start seeing a lot more footprints in the snow, and also all of those trees in the background. So we'll switch over to off, and then go back to high. And I think high looks best for this specific type of scene. So let's go ahead and turn this off. Let's back out of this. Let's go to the local contrast enhancer. So right now we're in off. If we just swing back to high, we can see that all of the detail in the snow is now totally blown out. So it's taking that bright part in the snow boosting it up, and then it's taking and just eradicating all the footprints. And as we go down, it gets a little bit better until we're back to off once again, and we can start seeing some more shadows in the snow and also in the background as well. So this is off, back to on. Obviously, this is kind of targeting the foreground where it's really bright and just kind of just knocking out all of the shadow details. So I guess depending on what you're watching, this could work really well. In some other cases, it could not work really well. So for this scene, for instance, in Interstellar, you can see how it's kind of really emphasizing some of the brighter parts. The higher you go up, the more it's kind of clipping in the specular highlighted areas. And then for the darker areas and specific spots, it does look a little bit better. So again, depending on what you're watching, you might have to tailor these two settings to taste. And then the last option is the dynamic tone mapping. With the tone mapping off, it actually doesn't look all that bad, but with it on, you can see all kinds of detail in the snow, so you can make out all those hoof prints in the foreground. Here we can see that the horses gradually get brighter with the higher nit demo, but the bright areas stay relatively the same, which is great because there's nothing that's really getting blown out. Under light source, we have a few different options here. We have normal, which will give you the maximum light output. We've got eco, which will prolong the laser life source of the projector. This is again rated at 20,000 to 30,000 hours, depending on the setting that you use. Then we have low dynamic, which will adjust the black level of the projector in slow increments so you don't see any abrupt dimming or darkening of the light output. And then for high dynamic, this will do the same thing, except you'll see quicker transitions between light and dark as the black level changes. However, for this, I'm going to keep it on normal to get the maximum light output. And then the next section is HDR brightness, which will let you adjust the brightness of your HDR content. So the HDR brightness slider will obviously brighten up the image. So right now I've got it at a -2, we can go up to a +2. So if you see as I go up, obviously the entire picture gets brighter, but then again, so does the black floor. So the letterbox bars, along with everything else, does brighten up, but then the black levels do start looking more grayish than they normally would. Also, the warning sign is also a bit blown out now. So the higher that you go up, not only do your black levels go up, but so do your specular highlights. So you can start blowing out the whites in the brightest part of a scene. So depending on what you're watching, if you're watching a dark movie such as this one, this could help bring out some shadow detail. But then again, you're going to give up some highlight detail as well. And then the last option is the noise reduction. The next section is audio. So if you are not using this with an external audio device such as an AVR or processor, this does have built-in speakers. This does have a few different sound modes. We've got cinema, music, game, and sports. Audio output, you can choose between internal, optical loud, EARC, or the 3.5mm jack. We can mute and then adjust the volume. Under display, we have a few different options here. We've got auto 4x3, 16x9, 241, and then back to auto. Auto source search will automatically look for the active sources. You can rename your sources. This does support 3D. The 3D is just as good as what I was getting with the JVC NZ900, even just as bright, and that projector costs something like 10 times more than the 4100. Although, this being a DLP, there are hints of the rainbow effect. If you're sensitive to it, you may or may not see it, but I didn't see any ghosting or crosstalk issues. It'll play back 3D Blu-rays, side-by-side or top and bottom 3D formats. We've got your HDMI settings, and this does support 24p True Cinema, so if your content is shot in 24p, this will play back as the director intended. Then for installation, we've got your projector position, we've got auto, front ceiling, rear ceiling, and then back to auto. This does support 2D keystone correction, so by going up or down, you can see how it will automatically or digitally adjust the image. So if you cannot get your projector screen squared up with your wall or your screen, this could be very handy. However, if you do want to get the absolute maximum resolution out of this projector, it is highly recommended you do not use digital keystone correction. Again, we have corner fit, so if you select a specific corner, you can see that you can adjust each corner manually. So I am adjusting the top left corner. Again, this goes along with the 2D keystone correction. This is a last resort type of thing, so if you don't want to start eating into your effective resolution, these are not features that I would personally recommend. But I can understand not everybody has the ideal setup. Then you hold down the back button for 2 seconds and that'll reset everything. Then we've got masking, so you can adjust the masking for top, bottom, left, and right. We've got your test pattern, which I have on right now, which is the grid pattern in the background. High altitude mode, 12-volt trigger, and then your baud. Under system, we've got your different settings here for language and all that stuff. And then information, this will tell you everything that's being fed into the projector, such as resolution, source, picture mode, etc. All within this section here. Now going back to 3D for a minute, I do have the Benq W4100, which is BenQ's flagship projector. It also costs twice as much as the 4100. That projector uses the 0.47 Ti chip, while the 4100 uses the bigger 0.65 chip. And with 3D content, there is very noticeable rainbow effect, which is really easy to see here. With all of the bright lights and neon colors, you'll see how you get that reddish purple ghosting. And when something is moving really fast or really fast pans, you'll see it even more. I can see it sometimes on the 4100, but on the 5800 with this particular movie, it can be borderline unwatchable. Now this is gonna be dependent on how sensitive you are to noticing these things, so if you've never seen it before, I wouldn't go looking for it because you may not be able to unsee it. Also on the 4100, the pixel grid structure or the screen door effect is just about invisible from just a few inches from the screen. But on the 5800, I can see it from 9 feet away, which is how far the screen is to my front row. Now I've had a lot of projectors in here from Hisense, AWOL, Anker, and even fan favorite Valerian, which all use the 0.47 chip, and all of them I can see the pixel structure. The 4100 is the first DLP projector that I've had in here for quite some time that I haven't had this issue with, so it hasn't bothered me. It also has a cleaner, smoother look to it, whereas the 5800 has a very digital look to it. I would say the 4100 is more comparable to an Epson, Sony, and JVC for that clean filmic look. Now here's a shot of Interstellar. In the 4100, you can see what I think are the frozen clouds in the background, and there's also mountains back there as well, whereas in the 5800, it's all clipped out. And I did try to adjust the 5800 to get it looking as close as possible to the 4100. It just doesn't have that depth that the 4100 can give you. BenQ also included their new AI HDR feature, which will apply noise reduction and sharpening along with some other picture processing to improve streaming video quality and other lower quality sources. Your mileage will always vary with these types of image processing features, but it will try to make the picture look sharper and more detailed. I was hoping the 5800 would be the better of the two because the hardware is so much more premium over the 4100, but it really boils down to the image quality, and I think the 4100 wins easily. I wasn't expecting that much of a difference between the two, but it's pretty clear the 4100 takes it. Now I mentioned earlier that this does come with an Android TV streaming stick, so you can use it for streaming services like Netflix, etc. But as far as the picture quality, this is the best DLP projector that I've had in here in the past year or so. That includes BenQ's own best projector, the 5800. The tone mapping looked great. It throws a really bright image if you're not using the wide color filter, which again is dependent on your screen size. But the black levels, while they are good, isn't going to compare with a JVC or Sony. It's comparable to other DLPs out there. I personally wouldn't dismiss this projector based on black levels alone because a lot of these DLPs in this price range do look really good nowadays. The image was way better than I was expecting, and I would highly recommend this if you are shopping in this $3,000 price range. So if you do want more information or want to grab one of these projectors, I will leave some links for it down below in this video's description. Well, thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video.